we will solve in Python. That is what we need to create a class called circle. So within that circle, one class variable we need to declare, that is class variable pi, value to be assigned 3.1416. Now we need to create a method to calculate the area of the circle, okay, based on a radius. Okay, that radius will be provided by instance variable. Okay, instance variable means that variable to be written inside of a constructor. Okay, so these classes all are free classes, and thrice of a day, thrice of a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday classes will be conducted at sharply 8 p.m. on Zoom platform. So under my Lakshmi Narayan Krishna Foundation, Sarveredipal, Ongole, AP, India. So these are Python classes, okay, and I have pledged that these classes will be conducted until my last breath of life, okay, to support the poor students, especially whomever residing in rural areas throughout the world. Okay. So now write the code how to solve this question. Try to understand. First of all, question, create a class called a circle. First class we need to create in Python. Class keyword use to create a class name circle. Now then after, don't forget to keep the colon here. Now class is created. Then after, if you don't want to write any instructions, simply keep pause. But if you want to continue the instructions, so no need to keep pause here. So now this circle class, it is to be created with a class variable for pi. Class variable is what? Pi. I told you that class variables always they need to be declared inside of the class. So pi is a class variable, that is value 3.1416. This is the value. Okay, now your class variable created. You can mention here, this is the class variable. You can comment here class variable, otherwise class attribute, all are same. Now come down here. As per your question, class variable created and value assigned as 3.1416. Add a method. One method we need to create. That method means def. Okay, method name to calculate the area. So calculate the area means what? You can write calculate. Method name you can keep as calculate. Okay, so as per this, to method name, add a method to calculate the area. So to simply calculate method name bracket. Now and then, always I told you that if method is there, so method and function both must have brackets. So difference is method and function is what, whenever you write any function inside of a class, now that function becomes a method. Now this calculate method declared with the def keyword inside of class circle, so it is a method, not function. So this method created to calculate area, okay, based on what? A radius provided by instance variable. So simply see what happened. A radius will be provided by instance variable. Understood that? So instance variables, for instance variables we need to create constructor, init method. Def, this is called double underscore method. Init means initialization method. Okay, and bracket, inside of bracket self parameter is compulsory. Then after semicolon. Now try to understand what happened. This is called your constructor method. Constructor method, it is a special method. And this special, what is the use of this special method? Whenever object is created, this method will be called to assign the values for object properties. Okay, to assign the values for object properties, this constructor method, double underscore method, otherwise initialization, init method. Initialization means what to be initialized whenever class is called. Whenever class is called, that moment object also will be created. To for that object, any properties are there to assign the values to that object properties. This method to be created, automatically called. This is default function. So now what happened inside of this, if self is there, one as per this one radius, that radius must be provided by instance variable. So create radius. Okay, now radius is called instance variable. So how these instance variables access by self dot radius is equal to radius. Understood that? Now now understood. Now what happened, a constructor created, okay, in 8th line, that is called double underscore method, otherwise initialization method, to construct the objects with their properties and values. Okay, now here as per question, add a method to calculate the area based on a radius provided by instance variable. Understood that? So for this one method created, calculate. In this method we need to request print what? Area is a keep area is a string here, and then after separators. Okay, after that we need area. How can we calculate that area? So that area is what, that is called pi r square. Pi is the class variable. How can we call that pi by self parameter? Here one parameter inside of the method also self. We need to mention that one parameter inside of this method self. So class variable will be accessed with the self parameter, self dot pi. Pi is the class variable, but that will be accessed with the self parameter. So self dot pi means what? Pi r square into r means what? Radius. Okay, radius. So radius into radius. So now what happened? Now here inside of this create an object is equal to, for what? Circle class. Okay, now whenever you want to call that method, which method? This method, because here that radius is the instance variable, and that instance to provide the instance variable, I have created a constructor method, and within that the instance variable passed as a parameter radius. Okay, now that will be accessed by self dot radius is equal to radius. So now whenever we call this method, so how can we call this method? So obj dot calculate. Okay, now inside of this, whenever you are calling that, we need to pass the values for that radius parameter as an argument. If we pass 5 as an argument, so now let us see what happened here. We are getting in 5th line missing one required positional argument in it. 15th line 13th, 14th, 15th. So whenever if I run this code, I will get the area like this. Okay, so how it is solved, try to understand here. As per the question, create a class called circle. So class circle created with a class variable pi is a class variable here, and value assigned for pi 3.1416. Add a method to calculate the area. So method in 12th line, method created, that is a calculate method name. So the method purpose is what? To calculate the area of the circle. So 13th line, print area. Area is a string, and here area of circle is called what? Pi r square. So pi is the class variable, so that will be accessed by self dot pi into self dot radius. So why? Because radius is the instance variable created in double underscore method in 8th line. But if I want to call in method, so directly I can't call this radius instance variable inside of the method. So because we can use inside of the method local variables, but here I want to call the instance variable. So that instance variable can be accessed with the self parameter, self dot radius into self dot radius. Now pi r square it becomes what you know. So whenever object is created in 15th line, obj is equal for class circle. So that moment, whenever your constructor method is created, so for that radius instance variable, we need to pass the positional argument in the default constructor. This is called def constructor. Okay, default constructor. Understood that? So now what happened? In 15th line, object created for circle class, and 5 is passed as a positional argument for the instance variable radius. Okay, so whenever method is being called in 16th line, calculate, so under this method, whatever the statement that will be executed, the method into this method. So question is what? Add a method to calculate the area. So method calculate created, and this method calculate the area based on radius. Radius will be provided as an instance variable. That instance variable declared inside of the constructor method. Okay. So what happened? Whenever method 16th line, we are calling the method in 16th line, that moment the method will be called calculate method. Inside of that method, the statement written is for area calculation. Okay, so every time you call that method, area will be calculated. Okay, if you call one time area, you will get the area 78.54 square centimeters. Simply you can keep here like what you know. Here you can keep one that is text like square centimeter. Okay, understood that? Square centimeter, 78.54 square centimeters. So in this way we can solve the question as per the requirement. Understood that? Every time instance variable will be provided by the constructor created in 8th line, that is called double underscore initialization method. It will be initialized when class started. Class is initialized at that moment for that object to assign the values for the object, to assign the values for object properties. Here object properties are what? Okay, radius is called instance variable. Okay, so for that instance variable, whenever object created in 15th line, so if one more for every class, see, for every class we can create many. For every class we can create many objects. If we create one more object, object 1, so same time that moment that object created for this circle class, so many objects can be created for class. So if you pass 7 here, so that moment what happen, see, object dot calculate. So for that first object radius is 5, so the area will be calculated. So if you want to call another object, so that means object 1 calculate, you need to, so that moment for second object, second circle, okay, second circle, what will be the radius, what will be the area, understood that? So that moment whenever radius changed, so that radius, as per that radius your area will be calculated, that is 153.9384 square centimeter, understood that? If one more object created, third object, one more means one more circle is created, object 2, so this is one more object created for that circle. I told you that for circle it is a class, it is a blueprint to create that objects. It's a blueprint means design template, that is to create the objects. We can create many objects as per your requirement for the class is the design template. So one more object being created here, that moment for the what circle class in bracket, if you pass value, that is radius, as an instance variable 10, so that moment you need to call that object 2, second object 2 dot, this method to be called calculate method. Whenever we call the calculate method, that will calculate the area and for that area instance variable will be provided by your constructor created in 8th line. So that instance variable radius provided as a parameter in 8th line. Okay, now see what happened here. Calculate, maybe we calculate simple 1a, we have missed 1a, so now we are getting this area for third circle. How many circles created? 3 objects created for circle. For every circle, whenever you change the radius value, so the method will calculate the area, different area. Okay, this is the one more question solved in Python. So indentation is very important whenever you write the code. So indentation is very important. Why? Because class created circle, inside of that pi is instance class variable, so indentation, one tab must be there. Okay, because class variable is part of circle class, so that pi class variable must be inside of the class, one tab, 4 spaces. Whenever you are creating the method, it may be double underscore method, it may be general method, normal methods, they must be under class, so one tab space given. Object creation, that moment object to be created outside of the class, okay, not inside of the class. So that moment in 14th, 15th, 16th, 3 objects created, no any indentation is required here. So whenever you are calling that method calculate method, that moment also we need to separately call the methods, so no any indentation required. So indentation is very important. This is one more question solved here. Okay, if you have any doubts, you can call to my number 9110398650. Okay, classes are being conducted now, Python free classes. So this is the second time Python classes started as per requirement of the students. Even the one student is attending the classes will be conducted for one student also. The classes will be conducted